AI is a wonderful thing, isn't it? Here I am speaking through an AI-generated voice, for example. You've heard this voice review 2 video games so far, but now I wish to do something a little bit different. To that effect, I've used an AI to write an epic saga, full of drama, romance and secret alien lore. To narrate this story, I've employed the services of yet another AI, who has taken on the envious voice of Stephen J. Fry. Enjoy.
My mother was a goat. I thought she was beautiful. She was tall and slender and looked like a doll in the way that goats do. Not beautiful, though. Beautiful in that she seemed alive, like one of those dolls at a Halloween party. Those eyes. Hers were a little crazed. Like her, the eyes of a praying mantis are incredibly wide open and vulnerable, even with their sockets covered. That's what it looked like to me when she looked at me and smiled. Why I wasn't born a goat, I can't be sure. They had done this kind of thing to people on Earth thousands of years before. Some had been in prison camps, others had died horribly in the camps. Not all had, though. Many had come out of prison and been re-educated. They said that some had gone to heaven. Others had lived out their life. Most had not. Those that had came to Earth were the ones they were most interested in. Each of them had a mission. Mine was to assassinate the president. When the questions I asked were in my head, the creatures knew to ignore them. Instead, they would wait, at a distance, to see if I went off track. At that distance, it wasn't clear that the human brain could do much. Most of their answers were simply variations on, because it's the right thing to do. But it didn't matter. Because this time the answers had the ability to take a human life. Every one of these men, all working for the US government, could kill me in that moment. I hid in downtown Maine. I also had no problems taking down a president, for that matter, even though I knew that that wasn't my job. Not yet, until I got my answers. They also knew the answer, which was because if it weren't for these beings, it wouldn't have happened. The president was set to arrive the 8th. There was no way to know when the president would arrive, not unless a war broke out, in which case the machines would find him. Or if the world was at war, then the government would start fighting, as they did all over the country. That, my creatures reasoned, wouldn't cause to start killing them too. As they saw it, there was only one man in the entire world who could stop the first war. He was my president, so I had to kill him on the plane. Right, with no thought of mercy, no doubt, not even for my sanity. Maybe my brain was so saturated with their language that my mind couldn't function at all. But I still managed the job, I suppose. You have to understand that as a kid, I didn't know anything about this. In fact, most of it came from watching the news or listening to my goat mother. They had already decided that it should be me who would assassinate him, since my first target was most likely to make the most news. Of course, that's not how it happened, only in part when my mind was busy with other things. One of those things was killing the 2 men in their office. My mind had been too busy for them to notice. If they'd had that attention, I might have been able to distract them for a second. Instead, they were still busy talking about the war to come. Just as I finished my thoughts, one came over and whispered, "They're going after him. Kill him and his family. Let them get his brain in front of them. Not sure they'll let him live. Do it now, before they kill the rest." I didn't say anything, just looked at them from the corner of my eye. It was too much for me to bear. With their heads turned, I watched as one man grabbed a piece of metal from his desk and began to weld a small device into it, like a helmet. Then he began turning the device around and around. Finally, he grabbed it in his hand. Then he slammed it into my neck. "Oh, yes, sir. See you later." I looked at my watch. A few minutes had passed. His mouth was now filled with blood. Those 2 had never seen such a thing. Their vision was completely blacked out. "Oh, there you are, Mr. President," the man said. "I'm just waiting for a signal," he said to one another. As the other man nodded, the one I had seen before stepped back and disappeared from the room. My enemy stood placid, smiling. This was the second creature that had come to me that morning. Like the bureaucrats, each had its own agenda, and they all believed in them. No one could argue that, as long as they kept moving forward, they would achieve their goals. And the gun was in my cold, dead hands. I had no idea why they'd brought it to me. It was some sort of device. They explained to me that I needed to hold it while I killed him. "Be careful, Mr. President," the first one said. "He's very dangerous." And with that they left, leaving me alone with this device. For what purpose, I wondered, but knew that I had to leave. All I knew was that it was important to keep the president alive until we could figure out where the creatures were coming from. It was my job to take care of it. I had to kill him, but I had no clue how to use this thing. I had never held a weapon. I've never been trained with a gun. The only thing I knew about weapons was that they were bad for the world. Only assassins, terrorists, and people who shot cops used guns. In the end, I don't think that the gun did any good. I remember it being in my hand, the president's face in my view, the gun pointed at his head. He started to shake and his eyes were glazed over. I shot him in the head. I thought I heard something pop, but a few seconds later he fell to the ground. I reached down and pulled the trigger again. Sparks flew out and the mask fell from his hollow face. The man was dead. I lifted up the mask. It was a human mask made of rubber. Inside the mask there were wires running through a hole in the forehead. I remembered what the creature had told me. The man must have put it in his head, and then I had killed him. What good was a gun if you couldn't hit your target? The president's body was shaking. I knew that he was dreaming, as I was once before. The dream seemed to last forever. We were all fighting over the same thing. We were fighting over the future of the planet. I wanted to save the world. The president wanted to bring peace. The creatures wanted to protect the Earth. I have to wonder, did we ever win? Did we ever have a chance to succeed? And then I woke up. But for a second I was standing next to the president. He had a gun in his hand, one that I didn't even know he had. His hands shook, and he was looking at me, but I didn't look back. I looked straight ahead. I was in the middle of a crowd of people. I was surrounded by reporters and cameras. I was scared. I didn't know what to do. I knew that I had to act quickly. I knew that this was the only chance I could hope for. "President Kennedy," one of the reporters shouted, "what are we going to do? We can't take this anymore. We need to take back our control," a voice yelled from the crowd. "The only way to do that is to fight them, to bring death to the creatures, to wipe out every single one of them, all of them." Was this why they had told me to shoot him? Was this the reason that I was here? Did they want me to kill the president? Did they know that I would kill him if I could? Or did they not care? Would they even care? Would I actually kill the president if given the chance? In my dreams, I would have killed the president without hesitation. I tried to remember what it felt like to stand next to him, to touch him, to have his arms around me. I had done it once, and I had never forgotten it. It was the most intimate experience of my life. I saw a young man with a camera in his hand. He had long hair. He looked at me and then walked away. I wondered why he had stopped to take my picture. Why not the president? Who was he anyway? What did he want? Was he a reporter? Then I realized that it was just me. There was no president anymore. In the dream, he was gone. I was alone now. No one would help me. No one would tell me what to do. I would have to take the president's place. I would have to lead us all. I would have to take control. I took hold of the microphone. "Our enemies are trying to take over our world. They have taken over our minds. They have taken over our bodies. They have taken over our lives. I will give you a name. Our enemy is called the Greys. They are the ones who have changed us. They are the ones who have made us weak. They are the ones who have caused the war. They are the ones who have destroyed our cities. They are the ones who have destroyed our homes. They are the ones giving birth to goat people. We can no longer sit back and wait for them to die. They will destroy everything. They can kill us all. We have to fight them now to stop them." No one said anything. The crowd stood silent. I looked out at them. They were looking right at me, and I could feel their stares. We are the people. We must stand together to fight against them. And slowly, the crowd began smiling as one. They were starting to believe me. We will destroy them all. We will kill everyone. Everyone on Earth has the same goal, to kill the Greys and to stop the war. They want to kill us all, but we won't let them. Slowly, the crowd began to cheer. They started chanting my name. Kennedy! Kennedy! I looked over at the president's body. I remembered the last time I had seen him. His arms were wrapped around me. I had felt his strength. I had felt his warmth. But this time he was cold and lifeless. The blood pooled in his mouth and stained the floor. His heart was beating, but it wasn't strong enough to pump the blood to his lungs. I felt sick inside. This man had fought so hard to keep his promise to me. He had promised to protect me. But the creatures had made me kill him. They had taken everything from me. And now I was supposed to follow in his footsteps, yet I had no choice. Suddenly, a man with dark sunglasses lumbered from the crowd. He was wearing a suit and tie. His face was covered in makeup. He had tattoos on his arms. He looked like the kind of man who would kill someone with his bare hands. I had seen him before. He was one of the creatures. "Well, well, well, look who's here," he said to me. "It seems that your little friends have sent you to us. They want to test out their new toy, I suppose." I didn't know what he meant by test out their new toy. I looked around the room. There were hundreds of creatures sitting in chairs. They were all dressed differently. Some wore suits, others wore tuxedos. Some were bald, some had white hair. Each one had a different colored shirt. Some wore glasses, and some didn't. They all looked like me and the president. They all looked happy, content. They all had smiles on their faces, except for the ones who were dead. "Are you ready to die, Kennedy?" asked another creature. It was a tall, thin man with grey skin and a large nose. His eyes were tiny, almost hidden behind his thick eyebrows. He smiled at me. "What does it matter?" I answered. "If you are going to kill me anyway, what difference does it make?" "You're wrong, my friend," the man with the dark shades said. "They will kill you. They will kill you because they want to be sure that you're dead. They will kill you because they want to see that you bleed." "What are you talking about?" I asked. "Why do they care? You killed the president, didn't you? So what?" "He was special," the man said. "He was the only person that they cared about. They want to make sure that they get him back." "So that's what this is? You want him back so badly that you're willing to sacrifice an entire race of people? He's not worth it." I stared at the creature. "But how can you kill us all?" "Just listen to me, Kennedy," the man said. "This is what the Greys are doing. They're going to turn us into slaves. They're going to enslave us. They've already enslaved you." I didn't know what to say. "They want to create more creatures like themselves," the man continued. "That's why they created us. That's why they made the goats. That's why they made the aliens. Their ultimate plan is to turn us all into mindless creatures that do whatever they tell us to." "Then why didn't they just do that to begin with? Why did they go through all of this trouble? Why did they create us?" I asked. "Because they wanted us to hate them. They wanted us to fight for them," the man explained. "They needed us to believe that we were better than them, that we could beat them and take over the world. They needed to make us believe that we were strong enough to survive. But we aren't strong enough. We can't win. We can't beat them." "But why?" I asked. "What do they gain from this? What are they hoping to accomplish?" "They want to destroy us all," he answered. "They want to destroy the whole planet. They want to kill every living thing." "That's impossible," I said. "Why would they ever do that?" "Because they can," he replied. "That's why." "I don't understand," I replied. "How can they do that?" "You'll see," the man said. "All you have to do is listen to them." He slides an ear across the table. I looked at him. I was confused. "Who are you?" I asked. "I'm your father," he answered. "I'm sorry that I wasn't able to be there for you when you needed me. I love you very much and I always will." I grabbed my head. I was dizzy and everything seemed to spin around me. I tried to speak, but I couldn't. My throat was dry. Then I heard him speaking again. "Do you remember the first time that you saw me?" he asked. Do you remember how I carried you over my shoulder when you were a baby?" "What does this have to do with the Greys?" I screamed. "What do you mean that you're my father? How is that possible? I thought you died years ago. Are you really alive?" "Yes, I am. But listen to me, please," he pleaded. "Everything that you have been told is a lie. You have been brainwashed by the Greys. They have erased our memories so that we would forget who we were. They want to erase everything. They want us to be nothing more than their servants. They want us to live in fear. They want us to hide from them. They want us to be afraid of what they might do next. They want us to work for them. They want us to serve them. They want us to do what they want. They want us to kill each other, just like they have killed countless others. They want us to obey them. They want us to do what they say. They want to impregnate us." I couldn't believe what he was saying. I knew that the creatures were evil. I knew that they were monsters, but I never thought that they could do something like this. "Impregnate us?" I shouted. "What do you mean?" "Don't worry about that now," he said. "Listen to me. Everything that you have been taught is a lie. The Greys have made you weak. They have turned you against yourselves. They have made you think that you are worthless. But we can change things back. We can rise up and strike back. The Greys control all of us, but they cannot control us all. We are stronger than them. We are smarter than them. We can fight back and take our freedom back. We can fight back. We can kill them and put an end to their reign of terror." "No! No! Don't let them take you away!" I yelled. "It's too late for you, Kennedy. Your fate has already been decided. They've been waiting for me to return. They have a plan for me. They have a plan to use you. They want to turn you into a slave. They want to turn you into a mindless creature that they can control. But that isn't your destiny. You don't need them. You have the power within you. You can fight back. You can kill them all and save the world." "I don't want to be a slave," I said quietly. "You have to make a choice, Kennedy. You have to decide which side you're on," he said. "Will you join us and fight back, or will you allow them to win?" "I guess I'll let them." Something made me raise the hand which held the gun. Something made me pull the trigger. The shot echoed across the room. The bullet flew through the air and hit my father in the chest. He exploded into 1,000 pieces. Blood splattered across the wall. A cloud of smoke enveloped him. His body fell to the ground in a heap. My vision blurred and went black. I felt myself falling, and then I landed on a soft surface. It took me a few seconds to realize that it was grass. I was lying on the ground. My head was throbbing. I was breathing heavy. I looked down to find that my hands were tied behind my back. I struggled to move. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. My throat was dry. I was cold and wet. It felt like my body was burning. Suddenly, a sharp pain tore through my stomach. It felt as if someone had punched me in the gut. I cried out, but I kept struggling. I tried to use my feet to kick, but I was unable to push off of the ground. I felt like I was being suffocated. My body was on fire, yet my mind felt numb. I started to lose consciousness. Then a voice called to me. "Kennedy, open your eyes." I opened them slowly. There was a goat stand beside me. It had a small wooden bowl filled with water. Someone had placed a glass of whiskey in the bowl. I reached for it, but my hands were still tied behind my back. The whiskey was warm, and the smell of the liquor made me feel nauseous. I managed to hold on to it long enough to take a sip. My eyes closed tightly. It took me a second to realize that the liquid was burning hot. I pushed it away and coughed violently, right into the goat's face. The creature grabbed its face and screamed in agony. Then it collapsed to the ground, rolling around on the grass. Its legs twitched wildly. I felt sick inside. I looked at the man standing over the fallen creature. "You bastard!" I gasped. "No, my friend," he replied. "You are the bastard." The man picked up the goat's lifeless body. "Open your eyes. This is your destiny." I tried to spit on him, but my mouth was so dry that it barely made a sound. The man tossed the goat into the air. It smashed into the ground. The man bent down and grabbed the creature by the neck, ripping it apart. "Want some?" he asked. "I'll give you a taste." He ripped the animal's intestines out of its stomach. He pulled the entrails out and threw them aside. Then he tore into the carcass with his teeth. The pieces of the goat flew all over the room, and the man didn't even flinch. He had more in him, and he was hungry for it. He had so much animal on him that he didn't even see the blood stain. He dragged the goat's flesh into his mouth, and I could hear it chewing. I turned my head away and tried to close my eyes, but the man saw me.
"We're going to be together, Kennedy," he said. "Forever." I turned away. I could feel his grip tightening on my neck. His sharp teeth made a wet, crunching sound as he bit down. Suddenly, everything became hazy. I felt myself falling. The pain in my stomach exploded into a burning flame. My body was burning, and I was ready to die. The man was laughing and pulling me along with him, but I couldn't escape. My vision started to blur. I heard the man say something over and over again. I lost track of the time, but it seemed like we were flying through the air. I felt like I was being sucked into the man's body. He grabbed the goat carcass and tore it in half. The sharp edge cut my neck. It felt like there was something in my neck. The man kept laughing as he slowly pulled the flesh out of my mouth. It was a long, drawn-out death. I could feel the blood trickling out of my ears. The man looked over his shoulder and saw me sobbing. "Forgive me," he said. "I'm sorry. I never meant to hurt you. I want to change. You are the only thing that can keep me from the dark. I am sorry. You can have my body if you can help me." I was suddenly numb. I could barely feel my fingers. "I've always wanted your body. I'll do anything you want." He put the goat carcass down on the ground. "Do you want to kill me first?" he asked. "Maybe that way we'll never get off this island." "What island?" I asked. "I want you to tell me where we are," he said. "I know I was born in Florida, but I've never been there. I know we're on a small, uninhabited island. I know that we're at the mercy of the Greys. If you know where we are, maybe we can escape." "You're not going to hurt me," I said. "I know I have to leave. They can't hurt us here. You're not going to kill me, are you?" "No, Kennedy," he said, "but you have to promise me something." "What?" I asked. "What do you want?" "You have to get on that plane." He was pointing to the floating plane. "There's nothing on this island that's worth living. The Greys will take you in and you'll do what they say. You'll become a soldier." "You're lying," I said. "You're not a soldier." He laughed. He was smiling again. "You're right," he said. "I'm not a soldier. I'm the president. I'm the founder of the Illuminati. We are the leaders of the world." "The hell you are!" I said. "The hell you are!" He stood up. He looked into my shoes. He stared at me for a moment. "I can help you get off the island," he said, "if you'll just tell me where we are." I thought about what he had said. "Where?" I asked. "I'll show you, if you'll just give me some time." "How long?" I asked. "When are you going to show me?" "It will be all right," he said. "I'll be waiting for you. We'll find a place together. I can teach you all about our world, the world that you've been born into, and how to leave it." "How?" I asked. "How can I get off the island?" "If you'll come with me," he said, "I can teach you how to live forever." "I'm not interested," I said. "I'll show you how to live forever," he said. "You'll learn how to talk to the Greys. You'll learn how to hypnotize them. You'll learn how to read their minds. You'll learn how to hide your weakness. You'll learn how to be like them. You'll learn how to become a Greysman." "How can I help you?" I asked. "What will it take for me to teach you how to live forever?" he asked. "I want to know the whole world," I said. "I want to know everything there is to know about our world. I want to know why the World Trade Center fell." "I'll tell you why," he said. "You don't have to pay me. I'll give you all the information you want." "What's that?" I asked. "The big secret," he said. "I'll tell you what the world is really like." "No," I said. "I want to see the world." "It will be much better when you see it," he said. "I can show you the island. I can show you the cliff that fell." "What's the cliff?" I asked. "A cliff," he said. "There's a cliff on the island." "How high is the cliff?" I asked. "How big is the cliff?" "It's big," he said. "I can show it to you. I'll show you where it fell. I can show you everything." At that moment, his mask fell off, and a tiny Grey stared at me. "You know this is the end," he said. "I can feel it in your mind." I wanted to run away, but I couldn't. I had to see what would happen next. "Don't run away," the Grey said. "Come with me." He beckoned. I obeyed. "What's the cliff?" I asked. "Come with me," he said. "I'll show you."
He took my hand, and we ran down a path on the cliffs. When I turned the corner, he was pointing to a grey floating in the air. "The cliff," he said. "That cliff fell about 1,000 years ago. We call that the Towers of Loss." "The Towers of Loss?" I said. "That's what it says in the Bible." "What's the Towers of Loss?" he asked. "Where do you think it came from?" "I'll tell you, but you can't tell a living person. Not even your mom or dad. You must promise me." "Tell me," I said. "The Towers of Loss are the foundations of this island," he said. "They were here when the sky was blue. They were here before the island was even built. They were here before the mountains, and the sea, and the trees. They're the foundation stones of this place. They are many, many, many times older than this island." "How old?" I asked. "You don't want to know the age of the Towers of Loss," he said. "It'll be too hard to live forever if you know how old they are." "The Towers of Loss are older than the Bible?" I asked. "Yes," he said, "but you don't have to worry about that now. Right now you just have to worry about getting to the right place. This is an island called the Bridge of Worlds. It's where we all come from. It's where all our dreams and memories are stored." "What about my memories?" I asked. "The memory is something only I have," he said. "The memories of everyone else are just records. They're very long, but they're very short on their own. That's why we can't remember things from our past. We can only remember what people tell us. But once you come here, you can go back in time. You can go back hundreds of years. You can go back thousands of years. You can even go back in time and give your child an extra birthday present. You can do anything you want." "Is this why you enslaved us humans?" I asked. "To give us all birthdays?" "That's not the real reason," he said. "The real reason is that your memories are the only things that will last forever. Your memories are what will hold this place together. You have no weapons, no armies. You have no power. If you kill one of the Grey, you destroy the whole world. If you do one bad thing, you will never be free. You have to have a good life to live a good life." "So you need the humans to do all the work?" I asked. "The humans are essential, but not necessary," he said. "I can do everything myself." "So then you're just some sort of a god?" I asked. "No, I'm not a god," he said. "I'm something else. You can't make the connection yet, but soon you'll see." "But you're supposed to be the only god," I asked. "No," he said. "I'm only one of many." "So then who is?" I asked. "That's a good question," he said. "I'm not sure I even know the answer. The humans are the only ones who know." "But can't you go back in time and get the humans to help you?" I asked. "Sure," he said. "It's very easy. Just push the switch and they come." I reached for the switch. A mighty vortex opened. The Grey screamed. It screamed and howled and raged. "Push the switch!" I screamed. "I said I'm not a god," he said. "Just push the switch." "I'm only one of many," he said. "The switch won't work," I said. "I need your help." "There's no help for me," he said. "I've already been pushed. Just push the switch. You can't lose." I screamed and clawed at the switch. I fought against the power and the Grey. I screamed and screamed and screamed until my throat hurt. "Push the switch!" I yelled. "I'm trying," he said. "But I'm not a god. I'm just one of many." "You're going to die!" I screamed. "There's no help for me," he said. "Yes, there is. I need your help." I took hold of the Grey's tentacle. "We'll go back in time to the time of the Illuminati." The Grey pushed the switch.